So let's dig a little deeper into Universal Design for Learning and talk about how to use UDL. In this case, we're going to discuss how to provide multiple means of engagement. A quick review. This relates to the affective network, and that's about the why of learning. That's identified in this graphic here as being sort of the center area of your brain. And it has to do with why you're engaging, why you're persisting, and how you're able to keep with it when learning gets tough. Because all of our affective networks are different and work differently, CAST's guideline is to provide multiple means of engagement. Take a look at some general ideas to break down what this whole engagement idea comes to. So think about what are the different things that engage us. So for example, if we consider praise and approval, which I have here represented by like a thumbs up and some gold stars, right? That is something that resonates for a lot of people. They are invested in their learning and engaged with their learning when they're able to get praise and approval on their success. Another item I have here is a picture of a trophy and like a first, second, third sort of standing for people who are placing in a competition. And that's because rewards and competitions can be very motivating for some people. I have a graduation cap to represent the engaging aspect of having long-term goals, as well as what a long-term impact might be of learning. So for many students, this is what will keep them engaged and what will keep them focused and sustaining their effort. I have a picture of a globe here, and this is very broadly representing real-world application. This is particularly true of adult learners, but really is fairly universal in that real-world application helps us stay interested and engaged, helps us see what the relevance is to our actual lives. And in our last picture, we have two people just chatting, it looks like, at a table. And that's because socialization and collaboration can be really engaging for some people as well. That helps them, get involved in something when they can talk it out with somebody and build ideas. Now, each of these 5 possible concepts can be a method to improve engagement, but it could also be something that discourages. Some people get turned off by competition. They're not interested in that. It makes them feel maybe self-conscious or negative. Some people are turned off by socialization. They don't like working with others. They hate group projects and they want to be able to do their own thing. Some are not motivated by long-term goals and they need shorter-term goals. There's a big variety. But these are some things to think about when we think about what engagement might look like. So based on those ideas, CAST has come up with some specific strategies. And I'm representing this with a little, looks like a picture of like a game plan with X's and O's traveling. So what's your game plan? What's your strategy for sort of conquering and being victorious over these obstacles, these barriers to learning? So of those strategies, in terms of providing engagement, it's about providing options for recruiting interest, for sustaining effort and persistence, and for self-regulation. So let's dive into each of those a little more in depth. Each of these options, I've got a little clipboard with little sort of green checks and lines. And that's because CAST has provided essentially this checklist. Now, you're not expected to do every single one of these all the time, but it's a way to, go through some options and check off ones that you're able to incorporate in a particular lesson, in a particular assignment, in a particular unit. So those are things to consider. So at the beginning, we're looking at options to recruit interest. So the options they provide you here are to optimize individual choice and autonomy, to optimize relevance, value, and authenticity, and to minimize threats and distractions. Let's look at what those look like in some specific examples. Each of these examples would potentially be checking off a box from that list. So the first example is that you could provide choices for projects. For example, you can have them choose the choice of their individual topic, maybe give them a couple topics they can choose from. Or if you're, an English teacher and it doesn't necessarily matter what their subject matter is, they could choose any topic. You could also have them choose the medium in which they're presenting their information. Maybe they have the choice of being able to do a video project or write an essay or create an infographic. Lots of different things they can choose from to really select what is going to be most engaging for them. Another example is to pair your assessments with an external motivation. And what I mean by that is by potentially aligning it with, let's say, like an essay contest or a local publication or event. What are some things outside of the classroom that might be more motivating and engaging to learners beyond just, oh, I have to do this for class? And then how can you pair your learning objectives with those external motivation tools to be able to get your best engagement? Get that clipboard back out and talk about what are the options for sustaining effort and persistence. Well, you should heighten the salience of goals and objectives. Make sure that those goals and objectives are constantly understood and relevant, and making sure that you're making the connection so students don't feel like this is meaningless busy work. That you vary the demands and resources so that you can optimize challenge. You don't want it to be sort of the same crawl for everybody. Some students will go through things more quickly. Some will need more time. Some will need more help. Some will need less help. How can you vary those options so that they can have the best form of challenge to keep them engaged, not too hard, not too easy? You want to foster collaboration and community because that is often very engaging. However, it can be a very unengaging experience if that collaboration is ineffective or unstructured. And lastly, you want to increase that mastery-oriented feedback. Make sure that you're really giving students a lot of feedback along the way, as opposed to just sort of a summative, you passed or you failed. What are the ways that they can get feedback on the way to that goal that will keep them engaged, keep them persisting to be able to meet the goal they need? Check off some of those boxes with some specific examples. So you can highlight the link between your assessments and your objectives. You can do that by listing relevant learning objectives on your assignments and readings. You can do that by bringing up those goals and objectives in your teaching, in what you present to students. Another example would be to provide formative assessments and feedback. So this can sometimes take more time, but it is very beneficial for engaging learners. Use practice quizzes. You can make them with programmed feedback so that they're able to get feedback without a whole lot of extra work from you. Also, you want to annotate drafts. Give students feedback on drafts that they make before they get to a final submission. All right, let's get back to that clipboard. What do they mean by providing options for self-regulation? Well, we can break that down into a couple of strategies. Promote expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation. Help students have the right attitudes and ideas about success, about learning, about motivation. Also, facilitate personal coping skills and strategies. Students need to learn what to do when they run into obstacles, when they get tired, when they don't have time, when they're not interested. Just because I don't like the subject matter doesn't excuse me from learning it. What are some strategies you can help them develop so that they stick with it and can also regulate themselves so that you're not hovering the entire time? And lastly, develop self-assessment and reflection. This really does help prompt students to take a look at what they're doing and build those metacognitive skills and understand, hey, I'm responsible for my own learning. I'm realizing I'm hitting an obstacle. What do I do now to overcome that obstacle? Check off some more of those strategies in our examples. First off, consider implementing project checkpoints. This is where you're able to create opportunities for you to check in with students on their progress. This can be looking at drafts. This can be talking about how they're managing their own time, discussing how maybe group work is going, anything that really just helps students have the opportunity to stop and think and reflect on what's going on. And incorporate self-reflections is the other example. And that's very similar. Prompt or scaffold these opportunities for self-evaluation so they can build those metacognition skills. Is it that they have to hand in written reflections occasionally? Is it that a reflection of some kind has to be built into a draft submission? What is it that's going to help provide that scaffolding to get students to the point where they're evaluating their own progress? Take a look again at our sources for this presentation. Again, our information comes from the National Center on Universal Design for Learning by CAST, and all the icons used in this presentation are by FreePick via flaticon.com.